frame generation techniques have a lot of disadvantages and, in our opinion, are best utilized only under specific scenarios. However, this video is not about frame generation in general. It is about comparison of the two existing solutions, DLSS from Nvidia and FSR from AMD. Hello and welcome back to Hardware Lab. As you probably already know from our 7800 XT and 4070 comparison, FSR frame generation works better on AMD, and this is something you should keep in mind. On the other hand, DLSS frame generation doesn't work on AMD at all. Moreover, it doesn't even work on the Nvidia's own cards older than 40 series. So the only way to compare two technologies on the same hardware is to use Nvidia's 40 series card, in our case RTX 4070. All the tests were done on a Ryzen 7 5700X3D with a 16GB 3733CL1615-1536 RAM. The output resolution is 4K. The render resolution depends on a scaling option and shown on every final graph in each test. We will only compare the performance impact of utilizing both generators and won't really touch on the quality of the generated frames. I would just say the quality in general is good and it is hard to notice any difference between the two. The only visible difference is there between FSR and DLSS reconstruction, and in most games FSR reconstruction is required to use FSR frame generation. But that's a different sort of visual difference, not related to the generator itself. I think I have seen tests in Ghost of Tsushima that demonstrated the advantage of FSR. Maybe they were done in some older game version or other resolution and it plays a huge role, but in our testing conditions, FSR frame gen and DLSS have shown identical results in this game. In the Talos Principle too, FSR frame gen demonstrates significant advantage over DLSS. Remember that greater generated FPS value, in this case, means less noticeable input lag drop, since more real frames are rendered during the test. One more Unreal Engine 5 game and one more massive win for FSR frame gen over DLSS. At this point, it feels like FSR is just faster in general. In Starfield, it runs surprisingly smooth as well. Don't get me wrong, input lag still feels awful, but it's just a bit better than in other games. Last game in the test and another major win for the FSR frame generation. We were surprised that AMD's frame generator without any specific hardware acceleration runs better on Nvidia cards than their own technique that is hardware based. To be fair, FSR's frames might look slightly worse at times in direct comparison, especially if you're required to use FSR reconstruction in the game for turning on FSR frame generation. But remember that if you see, let's say, 80 frame generated FPS, your game engine actually works at 40, so your input latency would be like you were playing at 40. Let's refer to that as real performance. So your real performance with FSR is just higher even on Nvidia's own cards, meaning that the game actually runs and feels faster under the same conditions. So it's just worth trying. If you play something with a frame gen on an Nvidia card, try to turn on FSR instead of DLSS. It might improve the game behavior significantly. I hope you enjoyed this little test, and as usual, stay up to date with HL.